Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a rare IWC GST Rattrapante Chronograph. This is reference 3715-13, and like every version of the GST Rattrapante, it was only made from 2001 to 2004. This watch is very much of the old school IWC mentality, including Richard Hobring's landmark Doppelchrono movement innovation and a case-shaped, the GST model that debuted in the late 1990s. Originally, GST meant gold, steel, and titanium. Those were the metal options available for the GST line. This is stainless steel. 43 millimeters in diameter. It is quite thick, at 17 millimeters thick. You can see that original IWC fish crown. From lug tip to lug tip, if we measure just the case, it's 48.9 millimeters. But if we measure this outer link on each side, that's the true distance across the wrist. Then it is 53.6 millimeters, which helps explain why this 43 millimeter watch really wears more like a 45. As you can see, it fits my wrist, but I don't actually recommend this for a wrist smaller than mine. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see whether down the barrel or over the top, that these lugs and that end link on each side really does push out to the edge of my wrist, and it's thick enough that you're not going to fit it underneath the cuff, but the watch is worth the trouble. It's a sports watch. It's not a dress watch. You have other IWC models for sartorial splendor and fine dress. This one goes to the beach. The timepiece includes an integrated bracelet. This is the GST style bracelet. You can see there's an integration of lug and bracelet taper. Outer links are polished. You can see intermediate links are polished. Primary links are satinated. You also appreciate that every single link here is removable, so you will be able to size this watch precisely. You can also see that there is a 1.5 link associated. So instead of using a half link, they use a 1.5 link. So you have the ability to intermediate size. Taking a quick look, you can see the internal single swing arm, engine turned, which is quite attractive. And there's a single trigger release. So it snaps shut, then you press that trigger and it pops open. And that's how that works. Taking a quick look at the case, you can see that it has short cropped but large angular thrusting lugs. The lugs are kind of modular. They protrude from the case and they're almost their own kind of separate structure at each end. So the lugs are extremely prominent. You can also see that the mid case is, well, rather sheer, satin finished, and there's a contrast with the bezel, which is olive high polished. You can see that the bezel features a very shallow plane atop the polished flank. It's almost flat. It's very narrowly conical. You can see we do have that original IWC fish crown. That went away in the mid-2000s for the Probus Scafusia crown. The crown is often replaced in service, and this original intact crown marks this as a product of its era and also a very original piece. On the dial, well, there were several dials available, but the salmon dial is the most sought. Launched long before the salmon dial fad of 2018 to present, this one has a lovely sort of orange-red coloration to it. No two salmon dials are exactly alike. This one is a little bit heavier on the orange. You can also see that it has faceted applique, rhodium-plated steel indices, hands to match. It is a date and a split second, so you have the ability to time two events concurrently. You can split the seconds, for instance, to gauge whether two race cars are drawing together or drawing apart each time around the track. You can also use it for the kids' track meet, all sorts of fun applications for splitting the seconds. Now, the watch is based on a Valjoux 7750, albeit with massive IWC manufacturer modifications, but you get the basic underlying virtues of the 7750, including durability, the hacking seconds function, which you're seeing here, and then the double quick-set system for the day and the date. We'll do a quick loom shot so you can see the loom on the dial. By the way, the watch is 120 meters water-resistant with a screw-down crown. As you can see, you can tell the time, but the rest of the dial is relatively minimal. IWC deciding to go with the purity of full polished metallic indices rather than adding luminescence atop them. All right, quick notes. Underneath this caseback, which proudly declares that this is the Chrono Rattrapante, you have IWC caliber. By the way, you can see this is a pre-owned watch. There are some marks of wear over the years, but there's an IWC caliber 79230. It's 7750 based, but back in the early 90s, for its original launch in 1993, the IWC Doppel Chrono movement was created by watchmaker Richard Habring, and what he essentially did was he cut the movement in half right down the center. He inserted his split-second proprietary innovation, and that allowed IWC to take what had hitherto been an almost bespoke level high complication, something rarely ever made in more than half a dozen copies and then only by haute horlogerie brands, and he made it, well, he democratized it. He made the split-second chronograph something that was both accessibly priced and durable enough to be reliable. So this was a landmark movement. Now, of course, IWC made other changes. They would change the regulator, the power source. They would regulate, test, and tune the movements. They didn't just add the Rattrapante system back in the day, back before the Swatch Group stopped delivering raw Abauche and knockdown kits. IWC would largely rebuild the 7750 whether they were turning it into a Doppel Chrono or not. So add the Doppel Chrono components in addition to what IWC did to even a basic 7750 knockdown kit, and you get a highly modified movement that may as well be an IWC caliber. It does retain unidirectional automatic winding from the 7750, the 44-hour power reserve. They modified it from 25 joules to 29 joules. You get the double quick set, the hacking seconds. You get the cam-operated chronograph, albeit very sharply tuned by IWC to feel like a column wheel. And then you get an oscillating pinion, which is the form of lateral clutch used by the 7750. It's why if you press and hold the start trigger on a 7750, you get an almost vertical clutch-like seamless engagement. The oscillating pinion is something that's used by a lot of high-end lateral clutch chronographs. For instance, the old Cartier Tortue mono pusher, which had a movement by F. P. Journe and Denis Flageolet, and then later F. P. Journe's own chronograph monopoussoir Rattrapante, which uses the oscillating pinion likewise. So a little bit of an impressive pedigree to the lateral clutch in a 7750 base movement that doesn't often get a shout out. Now, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Rattrapante chronograph from the GST line.